This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. It's a pleasure to have you here, Chase. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. We're getting off to a great start, and we're covering all kinds of things, I think, in this conversation, because the work you do sort of encompasses pretty much all of operations in business, because at the end of the day, you need to know the numbers at hand, right? You need to know what's really going on every quarter, et cetera. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, our favorite question to ask everyone is, do you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs, professionals, things of that nature?
Myself, no. I'm the first one to graduate college in my family. First one to have their own business. I was just like, a unique child and loved money from the very early start. My parents didn't know how to deal with me, really. They were just lower middle class individuals working full-time jobs, and I was the only child, and just always figuring out like business savvy stuff, like having a little candy store like when I was 8, out in the front yard, and just all kinds of different things like that. So they were always like, we don't know what to do with him, but figured out my own journey, and studied accounting because I wanted to understand financials, and took it from there.
No, that makes sense, man. It seems that you always had a knack for going against the grain, whatever that was. And it's clear that it informed your decisions to look at the world financially. And who could blame you? Anyone, I myself have the main interest in business because of that, right? It's all about where your origin starts and why you're motivated to do what you do. At what point, though, in your education and looking at that, did you decide, because you could have gone and worked for somebody else, right? But you didn't. And obviously there's traces in your history of having candy shops and, selling lemonade stand, the proverbial lemonade stand. So at what point was it always I'm going to go into business for myself, even after I get the education? Or did you try working for others at some point and then say, this is definitely not for me?
Yeah. I mean, I did have jobs out of college. In college, obviously I studied accounting and management, but I always did taxes on the side for people, and basically taught myself taxes in the beginning. But I was always involved in like entrepreneurial, I think it's Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization in college. Like I was national like CEO member of the year, back in my college days. And I always loved entrepreneurship. I always loved hearing stories, and just hearing about business in general. And then I went on to work in corporate accounting and held a number of different jobs. And many years later, I had an opportunity to just kind of start my own firm, and jumped into it in 2011. And I think it was helpful having that experience from college to starting my own firm, because it gave me a perspective of not only how to manage people, but how to communicate and understand business owners a little bit more intently. And so I recognized that there was a need in the marketplace for connecting small business owner financial services, where there's a bookkeeper historically and there's a tax person, and those two were never really connected early on. And so I felt like doing that from the beginning was the right fit. And so we attacked that small biz market, and that's currently our bread and butter today, is what we serve too. But we've continued to grow and evolve, and become even more tech savvy every year and more efficient, and turn that into more like advising and wealth building and tax planning these days.
I mean, it's important. It's a relationship that's going to last. Ideally, nobody wants to go out and get a new one, right? So you hope that the one that you chose first is the right choice. I mean, you saw. I don't know if you saw recently. I'm not always on to this kind of news, but it was hard to ignore. I think Tyler Perry had an accountant who uh, didn't file taxes in a way that like the government owed him like $9 million in return, and he obviously I think he got a second opinion, and that's how he found out. And it's crazy what having the wrong person on your team or the wrong partnership can do for a business and the opportunities that are missed. Do you have any horror stories of people who came to you after having a bad experience with someone?
Oh, for sure. I mean, my whole conversation is, usually if you have a CPA, what are you looking for going forward? Why are you looking to change? And it runs the gamut. Not going to call anybody out, but we've seen from most recently somebody that was licensed and had horrible tax returns prepared that we've cleaned up for them. And some people just aren't progressive enough. And just conversation right before this call where the client working with another CPA and for many years, but they're not really advising them on how to save money. They're just kind of going through the motions of you know getting a transactional tax return done and not really helping them set up formations and different structures so they can save taxes, which help walk them through. But it depends on the person, depends on the story. But there's always somebody almost every week that comes to us with some type of issue where we can certainly help add value to them.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, Jason, you run two handfuls of companies, right? And I'm sure you have your own experiences in this regard.
I have some horror stories, no doubt, behind putting all that together. There's 13 total, so creating all that structure to make all that work so was, I mean, then it was a nightmare, and I did it all wrong and screwed it all up and thought I knew what the hell I was doing. It was like, nope, really didn't. Um, but that's how you learn. You learn from lessons learned, right? But man, I got a burning question for you, and I never ever ask
This
questions.
is true. This is true.
Ever ask questions, because I get nailed on LinkedIn at least 30 times a day about ERC. Oh my God, it's insane. So would you be so kind to our audience to just in 30 seconds, what are the qualification things that a company has to have to be qualified for ERC or TC, whatever?
Oh yeah, the employee retention tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, ERTC. I mean, you hit me with this question. I don't know at the top because one of my team members manages it daily for me. But if I remember correctly, you had to have 25% reduction in revenues, and that's like the first qualifier. Which there's a lot of different people out there marketing this because it's like quick cash for them to prepare it, and so they're telling everybody you qualify. But the first qualifier is were your revenues reduced 25% during the period of qualification? And usually most people didn't. They made more money in the pandemic. So that's what I would be looking at.
Yeah, no, that's so valid.
I couldn't pass that opportunity up because I get, it's insane the amount of emails, and I mean, we just get pounded with that stuff. And
I think there must be a lot of people like marketing these services lately, because even our clients we've had for years, where they're emailing me like, hey, I keep getting hit up by this person, like, do I qualify? I'm like, we analyzed this for you like 2 years ago. No, you don't. Like we would have filed it already, like so and gotten your credit back. But it must be blasting people all the time. I don't see
it seems to me, and maybe that there's a lot of scammers around that whole thing. You've probably heard some of the war stories about it in your industry, but it seems to me that for the volume of this crap that's going out, some of this stuff can't be legit.
Yeah, I mean, and working with a legit firm is the first step
Yeah.
too, because
Right.
you know, a lot of them, especially with the PPP loans, as you're seeing on American Greed recently, you know, they're filing false PPP loans. ERTC is the same, and you know, for these companies, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's who's signing the return and the amended return 941, who's in trouble, which is the business owner, not the third party that you pay the commission
Wow.
to do it.
Mm,
You know, they might come after them, but it's still the taxpayer that's responsible.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. So
that sucks.
talk about limited liability, right? Wow. That's
Yeah, which
crazy.
you know, which is why we try to educate the market on licensed versus unlicensed and why CPAs are important. You know, and kind of letting them know, like from a license perspective, you know, we have to hold ourselves out there as you know, somebody that we're protecting our professional liability from. You know, we have a state board that is looking down upon us. It's CPA Society, American Institute of CPAs, State Society of CPAs. You know, we have processes in black and white we have to follow for professional insurance. So I'm not going to risk my professional liability, my whole livelihood, to file a couple false returns for somebody. That's just not, you know, what I'm ever going to do. So if they're unlicensed, there's nobody really watching them. You know, I mean, maybe they get caught, maybe they don't. You know, maybe their money's already offshore and they can go live somewhere else. If they get caught, nobody's watching over them. Nobody's professional liability, making sure they do things correctly. So, you know,
Yeah.
getting the right person from the start, making sure they're professionally licensed when you're filing those type of things, and signing off to the government that you can claim these credits or claim these tax deductions is extremely important, in my opinion.
And there is the lesson right there for the people that are listening, that are the small mom and pop shops that don't necessarily know any better. Go to a damn CPA. Don't get sucked into some of these scams that are going around, and go to a professional CPA like right here and get the right advice that you need for sure. There you go. I just plugged you.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact.
True though.
This is the new MLM, except targeting small business
Right.
owners in particular. And it really sucks because they're the last ones that need more problems.
Yeah,
And
right.
small businesses have enough on their plate as it is.
Yeah, and what's scary is, you know, you read that language in the PPP and the RTC. It's a federal felony when you sign your name to that document to falsify it. So, you know, these people eventually, when IRS hires all these auditors and trains them and figures it all out, you know, I foresee us having a lot of these cases and a lot of federal felonies come about.
Yeah, man. It's crazy how many people are desperate to get something they didn't even know was going to come their way anyways, instead of just focusing on building their business, working with a solid CPA to help them set up the structures necessary for long-term success. Everybody wants a quick win, but if there's anyone in business has been in there long enough knows, is there's no quick wins. There's either steady growth and hard work, or nothing, and you're playing yourself. And I don't think it gets any more sobering than being able to hear it straight from someone who looks at business plans, business earnings, and business failings every day, like you and your team do.
Yeah, I like to joke I'm an overnight success, you know, 11 years later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. No, man. So if you had a bottom line, like this is my bottom line advice. If you're going to work with me and my team and what we do and how we operate, this is the bottom line. When knowing that you can work with any other CPA, that's fine. But the way we do it here, this is the most important thing to know about working with us. What is that?
Yeah, and Insogna CPA, I mean, you know, we're always focused on looking forward to 1231, being proactive with our clients, you know, advising, coaching, training, you know, kind of building wealth, and that's what we're looking forward to with our clients and helping them. Historically, again, the accountant and the tax person, they submit their information to the tax person in March or April, and they're looking back historically, they can't help them. So that's really what we do with our clients on a monthly basis. Customized dashboard, have in-house controller, fractional CFO work. It's not just about the transactional. I mean, anybody can do QuickBooks, but the data has to be right. And then we're advising and tax planning on the data that we're keeping track of. And that's the reason, we usually require doing QuickBooks Online and helping with the daily accounting piece of it. Whether our clients data enter or we do it for them, you still have to have that correct data monthly, quarterly, semi-annually to tax plan with them properly.
And here I thought you were gonna say, I'm billing you for this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're also a Dave Ramsey ELP. I mean, philosophically, I mean, we just like to help people. If you're looking for a CPA, whether it's us or somebody else, obviously it's a relationship fit, number one, but two, we're looking for people that are wanting to listen to our advice, wanting to be proactive, wanting to be tech efficient, and wanting to grow with us. We're happy to work with those people, but if you're kind of stuck in your own ways and you're on desktop and you want to do your taxes this way, I can't help you. But those are the clients we look for, and who we love working with is proactive, forward-looking people.
Yeah, man, I love that you said that. It's if there's one thing we do when we get into business, right? It's like it's too hard as it is in business to do business with people we don't like. And one of the first things you got to do is like, hey, there's a no asshole policy, right? On either end of the table. That's rule number one, because we're gonna have some hard conversations. I imagine people aren't, even when they know that you're about to help them, I'm sure they're still nervous or withholding numbers or info. You're like, if you need me to do my job right and my team to do our job right, you're going to need to be honest about it. I hear this all the time with CPAs. Is it accurate?
Yeah, it's 100% accurate. Usually the initial conversation is not the whole story. So, that's why we do like a project phase to get started and figure out what's there. And sometimes it's mostly accurate. Sometimes it's all accurate. Most of the time we're missing stuff. Good examples, this one client we had where like 20 bank accounts, I think she ended up with over like 120 bank accounts, after we got through the project phase, I had it like, that's, you start from somewhere and get to somewhere.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big difference. Big difference in paperwork.
But, it kind of goes back to being licensed, unlicensed too, because, we, obviously clients are hesitant to give their information to somebody they don't know. I think that's a big part of trusting a licensed individual just as much as you trust an attorney or a doctor. The same should be trusted in a CPA level, because again, we're following board rules and procedures. We're required to, we don't sign NDAs because we're required to keep information private without a warrant from the police department to give it up, just as an attorney-client privileges. So, when people come to us or come to any CPA that's licensed, if you're not sure, first check the state board. You can Google Texas State Board of Public Accountancy or whatever state you're in and go search for their license, and just verify that they're licensed, number one, they're not faking it. And then know, if they are licensed in one state as a CPA, we can operate in all 50 states. We don't have to be licensed in each individual state like an attorney or an insurance agent or financial advisor would be. There's reciprocity for CPAs in all states.
Oh, that's important to know. Well, I think it's a perfect time to take a really short break before we move on to the next phase of the conversation here, and that is to give a shout out to some of our supporters who make this conversation possible. In particular, with you today, we have Rogue Publishing Partners and Shelby Joe Long. Essentially, if you're an executive, entrepreneur, a coach, a consultant, if you've been thinking about writing a book and all that entails, the team, the structures you need, the accountability, well, Rogue Publishing Partners can do all of that for you, and they've done it time and time and time and time again. So you would be in good hands for you to look into that. So if you keep telling yourself, I'm going to write that book, let's make that a reality and actually get in touch with roguepublishingpartners.com. Let them know the War Room sent you, and let's get that book out of you, you know? And with that said, Chase, this is a perfect opportunity for you to let people know how they can connect with someone of your integrity and no BS. Like, what website should they go to? Is there something you're doing right now that's exciting that they should know about?
Yeah, I mean, we always love to talk to people and, see if we're the right fit, and see how we can help you. Feel free to call our office or hit our website, fill out the contact form. It's InsognaCPA.com. It's INSOGNA CPA.com, and just plug in your info in the contact form, and one of my people will get back to you and start the conversation and see how we can help.
Right on. So the next phase of this conversation, before I go there, I want to check in with Jason, because it's only right that I make sure I check in with him before we close this out.
I know we're rolling out the grand finale.
Yeah. So the grand finale.
Mhm.
If you could have invited anybody here today, Chase, to sort of chime in, listen in, maybe even contribute, ideally for you, who would that have been? Any point, place, time in the world and history. Who would you have loved to have had here, and why them?
I'm gonna go general on this answer. I'm gonna go the business owners out there that don't really have a team around them or a CPA they're working with. Like I said, we love helping people. There's a lot of CPAs out there that want to help people, and if you don't have that professional team around you, more than likely missing out. Maybe paying the IRS more money. Maybe not maximizing your profits enough. But really, business owners, there's so many out there that we don't get to talk to every day. That's who I'm hoping hears this podcast and hopefully reaches out to us or another CPA out there.
Right on. Yeah, accurate. That's true. This could be the conversation that finally gets them to switch it up and stop getting all these weird notices, and that they don't know why, and their CPA tells them, don't worry about it, I got it handled. It is tradition around here, though, for Jason to close this out. So I will say thank you. I'm glad that I got a chance to talk to you, and now that I know about your firm and what you're doing, it's been a pleasure getting to know you briefly, and I'll hand it over to Jason.
Yeah, the world doesn't have enough people like you that throw themselves out there and like this, right? I mean, I don't think we've ever even had a CPA on this show 300 episodes
That's
in,
true.
I don't
That's
think.
true.
Right? So
Wow.
at least you're putting yourself out there to get the word out, and you just need more of that, because what you do is like really important, and it's the infrastructure of companies really that need people like you to keep people like me from getting into trouble.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, right? Because my rule of thumb is always this: we can only have about 3 or 4 superpowers per person, right? You can't know everything. That is literally impossible. You keep your finger on the pulse to the laws of all that stuff, right? And like for me, I keep my pulse on all things growing businesses and scaling and so on and so forth. Just like, Phillip keeps his finger on the pulse for branding and all these different things in the marketplace and marketing and so on and so forth. So we all have our place right at the table. And thanks for being here and sharing some of that good information on what's going on in your world. Yeah, it's good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the combo today with you guys.
Hey, right on. Well, hey, man, Chase, take it easy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.